It's now time for the Sports Love Life Show. Let's join Jamie King and Dr. Judy Ho.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of Sports Love and Life alongside my great co-host, Dr. Judy Ho, of course, licensed clinical and forensic neuropsychologist and world-renowned relationship expert. We're joined tonight by, what a power couple this is, Vince and Janet Papale. You remember Vince? Of course, he was portrayed by Mark Wahlberg in the 2006 hit, of course, Invincible of the same name. We welcome you now from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Welcome to Sports Love and Life.
Thanks, Jamie, very much. I'd like to introduce everybody to my beautiful wife, Janet, of almost 28 years. So yeah. we figured Dr. Judy, maybe you could do a little analysis of us together.
Listen, I'm going to tell you right now, there's nobody better in the world than Dr. Judy. I'm all about Dr. Judy, and everybody that watches the show knows there's nobody better at what she does than her. So you're going to learn a lot from her. We always do. I've got to ask you when we get going here, the relationship. How did your love story happen? Who fell in love first? You told me earlier when we were first starting, there's two different versions. What's going on here?
Well, there's three, actually. There's hers, there's mine, and there's the real story. You know,
something in the middle.
Which is sort of blended. I'll let Janet start. It's pretty hilarious. If I have a tendency, if I start rolling my eyes, it's okay, all right?
Okay.
No, well, we met really doing a charity event. We were asked to be on a board of directors it was called Room to Grow. And the owner of this franchise of children's daycares was cutting edge, and he felt like all children should have the opportunity to have fitness and art and music and dance and all these different things. And so he started a think tank, and he wanted a curriculum done. And so he had asked me, because at the time was the head gymnastics coach at University of Pennsylvania. And he had asked me if I wanted to, sit in on the board and be a part of it. And I said, well, I'll see what it is. Well, and just a little backstory, my sister, number 4, because I'm the oldest of 9, number 4 was a gymnast also. And she had a gymnastics school called Gymnastics. So just keep that in the back of your mind. So anyhow, we go in, we have the meeting, and I don't know Vince from Adam. And I guess we met once.
This was right before the Barcelona games too, in '92.
Right before Barcelona. And what happened is I'm sitting there, and the photographer's there, the Please Touch Museum is there, all these and we're in a big conference room. And Vince is there with this woman who I knew, who was married to a tennis player, and her children went to gymnastics. So Vince gets up and starts talking about how children and obesity. And I'm thinking, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's plagiarizing from this woman. So immediately I didn't like him. I thought he was,
You didn't like him. You didn't like him.
Okay. No, I did not like him. And my friend and I sort of put him out there like he didn't know what he was doing. I sort of not embarrassed him, but I challenged him in front of a whole group.
She embarrassed me.
Of a lot of professionals.
That's the other
They
side.
were professionals. So,
they were mostly CEOs and
yeah, they were all different things. And so I left, and then I went on to Barcelona, and he went to John Seal and said, "What?
Oh, no.
Get rid of her. She's a bitch.
Yeah.
She's miserable.
That's like
Keep her out."
It's like when Mark Wahlberg met Janet for the first time. He said, "Who's going to play you?" And she was so feisty. All right, can I take over now?
Okay. Well, that's the backstory. That's what happened.
Okay.
And then I went away.
Well, then she came back, and then she says, "I think I owe you an apology." But the guy who was formulating this whole thing, our buddy John Seal, he was a helicopter pilot. He was a pretty cool guy. He was way up on the edge. And so I said, well, why don't we go out and we're right around the corner from where I actually grew up, suburban Philly. And we're right around, so let's go out and have a drink and seal the deal. And we sort of had a really great conversation and found a lot in common. We were two jocks. I mean, here's a woman who was on the USA World Gymnastics team, and I was a former Philadelphia Eagle. You don't get, at your level of sports, at your sport, you don't get any higher than where she was, where I was. So, but that wasn't a common bond. Actually, it was that, we really cared about kids. We were teachers, we were coaches, right. And we had pretty interesting backgrounds from our families, and as they say, the long story is short, we sort of sealed the deal at this place called the Living Room at Monte Carlo, which was a mini one that they had in Philadelphia, not the one in Monte Carlo, which ironically is just a couple of blocks away from where we're now moving into, they call the Queen Village section of Philadelphia. And we just had a wonderful time, and there you go. And here we are 28 years later with two beautiful children, Gabrielle and Vinny, and just loving life and doing things together, and putting together this monstrous move. It's 24 years of a lot of memories. Wow. And I'm the emotional Italian, as her father says. And,
he cries.
Yeah, I picked something up and I was,
Every time it's you can't get anything done because it's
right. The realtor, the phone's constantly ringing. So
let's go next one.
But it's all good, Jamie. And we're rolling. But it's sort of funny because the odds in the original script of the movie, they actually had a pool, 201 pool that I wasn't even going to try out, let alone get to training camp, let alone make it. And, and they say the odds were against me, they're too old, to this, to that. And they actually had a pool running on us for how long our marriage was going to last. Wow. And so here we are, it's all good.
Wow.
All good. Nothing beats beating the odds.
Amazing story.
So Vince, what is the thing that you appreciate most about Janet?
I think her unselfishness. She's the most incredibly unselfish woman that I've ever met. She is just, they have the SPCA, Society Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. We have the SPCH, it's the Society of Prevention of Cruelty to Humans. And Janet is without a doubt she's the CEO. I mean, she takes on, we have so many pets in our house that have two legs. And, but she just is, she's always there. She's the fixer. For her family. She says she's the oldest of 9, and they all come to Janet still. Her mother still comes to Janet, and just her unselfishness and her passion and enthusiasm. And she just does, she has an energy about her that makes me look like I'm in a coma. And I'm Dr. Judy, I'm pretty energetic, but I can't keep up with her. But, that's aside from she's a great mom, just a fantastic mom. And she's always there for you, never not there for you. And it's a beautiful thing. And when it comes in, what I really care about her is she's so trusting. She's trusting in me. I had other relationships and marriages actually. And the trust was the big factor that just broke down. And I think if you're looking for that glue that keeps us together, is the respect we have for each other and our pasts and honored our past. And respect our past, but also, trust what goes on together in the future. So it's pretty cool. We have a pretty nice life.
The Sports Love Life Show is brought to you by Dr. Paul Ross and his amazing foot cream. Amazing doctor, amazing cream. Give your feet the very best with Dr. Ross's amazing foot cream. It's the Sports Love Life Show with Jamie King and Dr. Judy Ho.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful sentiment, that everything that you just expressed about how Janet is just so giving, and, other people come first in her life and people go to her for support and for guidance. And I just think that that's so wonderful. Janet, what are the things that you appreciate most about Vince?
Vince? What is it? He's got a lot. He's got so many qualities. First of all, he gives us of himself. I mean, he motivates a lot of people. Yep. He's an impact person. Right. If you have to say, what do you do? Or people look up to him. I mean, he is he's warm, he's sensitive. He's the female, I'm the male. Yeah, if that makes sense. You know how they always say, oh, you're so sensitive to this. He's the one that does all that, and he gives the kids all the attaboys. And he gives them mulligans, whereas I sort of push and I go, this is the rule. And they know if I say it, I'm going to do it. Whereas he will give in and be okay. we'll work on it. Don't tell mom. And it always comes back to me, you know, but, and he's always there for people. I mean, there's so many people that are motivated by his story. And people say, how are you married to him? I go, he can't fly in his pants. I said, he puts them on one leg at a time, just like you and me. You know, so people think of, you know, when you do the unthinkable, or they, like he always says, I showed that the impossible is possible.
Yes.
I think that sort of represents what he is. And he's a role model to a lot of people. And he's involved in so many charities. I never did charity. Like my charity was my family. And he always, I mean, he did every kind of charity you can think of. And because of him, it helped me to do and give beyond my family and think outside of, you know, because, you know, when you're growing up and there's 9 people and your mother isn't working, you have a father working, there's not a whole lot of money if you're just you know, you're just a worker. So he taught me that you can give outside of your family and pass it and, you know, pay it forward.
We're coming up, Dr. Judy, on the 15th year anniversary of the movie Invincible. The movie that I'm having done, that Janet and Vince have been helpful with me on my story. It's a long process, as we know. You guys have been so helpful to me. Can you go back to your story? And as Janet just said so eloquently, you've helped so many people around the world believe in so many ways. And one thing I love about you, Vince, is you weren't the guy that said, hey, he can't miss. You proved yourself, and you did it through hard work, determination, and a belief that was second to none. And people can learn so much from you and have for all these years. But can you talk about the story and how it still resonates with so many people the first time they watch it, the impact they have, and how proud you are of what you did? And of course, Mark Wahlberg portraying you. Can you talk more about the impact all these years later?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I think it's an endless story. It's a love story, actually, I think, because there's so many different layers to it. You know, the love story about, you know, the love that I had for the city of Philadelphia, and also for the Philadelphia Eagles. I was so passionate about that team, never thinking, because of my age, not having played college football, never been done before, those kinds of things, really never thinking I'd get the shot and the opportunity. And so one of the, I guess one of the biggest assets with the movie, or me having done it back then, is I was always compared to Rocky. So I was a real life Rocky. And as a result of that real life Rocky thing, he was the ham and egger from Philly, 30 years old, you know, the guy, the sweatshops and the whole thing. And Rocky's turning 25, the movie, in 2002, and NFL Films approaches me and said, we want to do a feature on NFL football the night before the Eagles 49ers game, featuring you and, you know, using Rocky as the metaphor and the whole deal. And when, you know, what, Hollywood came calling the next day, and, you know, to make the long story short, Ken Mock, who was the creator, originator of America's Next Top Model, took a risk, and he had a spec script written by Brad Gann. And next thing you know, Disney, the movie gets in the hands of the 2 guys that did Miracle and Rookie. Right. That was the movies before me. I mean, the greatest, other than Rocky, the greatest sports movie, and the one that I think is the greatest sports movie in my life, aside from Invincible, of course, is Miracle. You know, and because it represented so many different things, especially it represented the USA, and Janet wearing USA and her jersey was an important thing. And anyway, that's basically how it all started. So these guys took the script into Disney. Disney said, oh my God, this is exactly what we want. And I know what you're going through right now, and I know what Rudy went through to get his beautiful story written and told and done as a movie. It took him 10 years. We had this thing done in 2 years.
Wow.
Boom, boom, boom. You know, 2002, the feature comes out. 2004, I signed a contract with Disney. 2005, they shoot. In 2006, it comes out. Boom. They say it never happens like that. But the beauty of it is the relationship that I saw with Mark Wahlberg, the producers, the associate, the executive producer, everybody, Disney, and that's there. And the other thing is, it's the movie that so many people can hold on to, because they see a lot of different elements, and I said a lot of different layers. And it's all about that dream. It's all about that dream. And I had this great saying when I was trying out for the team and everybody was doubting me. My coach given to me, and that's why I was a school teacher, because I was affected by so many coaches and teachers. My coach gave me this quote: "Happy are those who dream dreams and are willing to pay the price to make the dreams come true." And Janet knows how to pay that price as a gymnast. The things that she had to go through and her training, and even at school, not being absent from school in high school and all those things. It's one of the greatest quotes that I've ever seen. And when I get out and speak, which I'm now finally, because of the COVID over, pretty much, I'm out now able to speak in front of live audiences. I said, if you're not willing to pay the price, you're posing. And it's as simple as that. You can have all the dreams you want, but they're never going to happen. Right. And as we were talking before, one of the charities I'm involved with are basically as a result of two people that we knew very well that paid the ultimate price and were killed in Afghanistan, Iraq, in the theater. And it just touches me. So, make the long story short, thank you, Walt Disney, and everybody for believing in me and believing in the story, but everybody can feel a piece of it. And I think that's why it survived for 15 years. It's as strong as ever right now, Jamie.
The Sports Love Life Show is brought to you by The Nerve Company. Never underestimate radical vision. It takes nervy to be a company this great. What does Jamie King think about that? We'll find out next on Sports Love Life.
And we need it more than ever at this time. We need to be uplifted. And that's what Dr. Judy does in her practice every day, and what she does in all of her appearances. She lifts people up, and that's what you are doing. And so we're very blessed to have you tonight. Thank you for telling us about that, because this story isn't going away. Your story is getting more powerful as time goes on, because it's something we all need.
Well, we all need it right now. It's been a rough year for so many people, 14 months. And now they're coming out and they need that lift. And for me, I needed the lift as well. But Janet will tell you that, the COVID for us, we didn't look at it as a negative. We saw that as an opportunity to go in a different direction. And we always thought we had a close family, but we got even closer through the pandemic. But when we moved to Florida and spent most of our time down there.
And Vince, you're talking a lot about the concept of resilience. It's like when we go through difficult times, what do you do with that? It's not that, people's lives are just smooth all the time. And that's not what makes a happy person or a joyous person or somebody who appreciates their life, but it's how they respond to crises and stressors, and how you turn difficult situations into ones where you can grow and you can become closer. Like you said, as a family, this is something that you experience personally. And I have heard people say that about the pandemic, like what was the silver lining for them? And I think what makes your story so timeless, and I absolutely love the movie, I thought that they did a wonderful job, is this idea of, you just keep getting back up, and there's always a way if you have that dream and if you have that passion. And I think that really inspires a lot of people who probably feel lost right now. People lost their jobs. Relationships have been broken up in the pandemic. This is a new normal. I know that we're coming out of it, but even the way we associate with each other, it still feels strange, because we're all starting to get used to this idea of, oh, right, now there's restrictions lifted and you don't have to stand 6 feet away from people, and you don't have to have masks on all the time. Like, what is it like to see people again, make eye contact for real and have a real conversation? But I was wondering how much they actually asked for your and Janet's involvement in the development of the movie. Did you meet with the director? Did you meet with Mark? Did you meet with Elizabeth Banks? Did you kind of try to get them to emulate your characters so that it felt as real as possible? What was that development like? I'm always really curious when people build stories off of real people's lives, and wondering for you specifically how much they involved you in all of that.
Okay, I'm going to defer to, I'm going to put a pause on that, because you mentioned a really great word. And I think Janet's the poster child for resilience. And we were talking a little bit about that before, because, well, she can tell the story about the leotard. You went right about the leotard and reinvention, and, what you have to do now since the pandemic's over. And then as far as we had both of Janet and I, we both had a tremendous amount of input in the movie. There were some things we couldn't control because of the way it's structured, but we had some input. But Janet, just your thoughts about resilience. We were actually, I was throwing some topics out there, and so let's sort of role play this. And you sort of
But
blew
we
me
need to
away.
answer her question first.
All right, well, all right, well, I was going
Well, they're both things that we should talk about. I think we definitely should talk about resilience, and then I wanted to hear more about the specifics of the movie. So you guys go for it.
Our input.
Okay, I can do that. I was a gymnast. Well, first off, I'm the oldest of 9. The first 6 are girls. We all sang. My parents used to dress us alike. We did the baby parade, the Easter parade, and we all did one. My mother said, "You're all doing the same sport." If you played an instrument, you had to do everything. Because she was only going one place.
Right.
So I, at 9 years old, lost my spleen. I was in an accident at the last rites. So I was always the one that babysat, being the oldest, and I didn't get the opportunities because of health issues. So when I finally got the opportunity, I was like an animal in a cage that had been, and I wanted to do it. And I can remember saying to my mom, "Oh, can I do this?" And they asked the doctor, and the doctor said, "Sure." And I asked about going to camp, and they used to say, "We don't have enough money for you to go. You could just do it for fun." And I just looked and I said, "You'll never say that to me again.
Wow.
You will never tell me I'm not good enough or I'm just second." And so I worked, and I was always known in the gym as just one more. And then, my image of I'm going to go to the Olympics, and I got injured. And and then my parents were going through a divorce. And so all these image things that you thought you wanted, and everything is on you to be the best, and your dream is shattered in one night. I blew out my knee against the Hungarians, and they took me to the hospital, and they said, "You'll be lucky if you walk again." And I'm like, "What?" And I didn't believe them, and I worked through it. I tried to do gymnastics, and it took me a year to recover, and I couldn't do it. And then I was up at Penn State, and I said, "I'm going to teach myself another sport."
Mm-hmm.
And I had to wear a brace, and I was one of the first females to wear the Joe Namath brace. And so I hit tennis balls against the wall. I taught myself to play tennis, and I went out for the tennis team at Penn State. I never played, but I just said, "I'm going to do another sport. I'm not ready to give up my leotard. I have to do something to show that I'm okay." And I made it to the finals of trying out, and they said, "You have to take your brace off." I said, "Well, I can't take my brace off because if I run back and then go forward, my leg slides." Because at the time they didn't, do the repairs like they do now.
Reconstruction.
Yeah, the reconstructive surgery. So I then tried 1 and 3 meter diving, and I broke all the records at Penn State in a matter of 3 months. And I was like, "All right, I'm going to the Olympics in swimming and diving. This is going to be great." And then it was this, I'll never forget, it was in Montreal, and it was Olympic year 76. And I was teaching to get money on the side because now I'm swimming, but I'm going to go to camp to earn money for the summer before I go back to college. And there are people from South Africa there. The coaches came and they saw me teaching. And then there was an opportunity to get a job at the University of Pennsylvania, which is Ivy League. And I went to Penn State, and I always thought I was sort of dumb. You're not smart enough to do stuff. And I probably had ADD back then, and they didn't diagnose it. So I did all this stuff, and I ended up handwriting a resume and say, "Hey, look, I'm at camp. This is what I'm doing." And they gave me the interview. And there was a real big pause because they gave me the job. And I had a year of college left. And my dreams to go to the Olympics and go, finish my dream was, okay, do I do it? And it was a really hard decision. And I chose to give up swimming and diving and go to be a coach at Penn and have other athletes reach their potential. But when I say it was a hard decision, it was like I had to close a chapter, but I did it on my terms instead of my physical disability keeping me back. And, when you look back at it, it was a really great decision because I met a lot of things. And I met my husband because of it. And I was 39 3/4 when I finally got married, first time. So, resilient is you just keep reinventing till you fall into something that makes it right.
The Sports Love Life Show is brought to you by Snow and their outstanding teeth whitening systems. Go to trysnow.com. Jamie and Dr. Judy love their snow kits, and so will you.
Dr. Judy, my side, when I was part of the script development, back then, I don't even know if Google was, I don't know if there was a Google, and I certainly, the internet was just starting to, there was certainly no social media, those kinds of things. So I was talking to Brad Gann on the phone all the time, giving him all this information, sent my scrapbooks to him, and that's how I developed the script. And then when we were actually going to go out to California because Janet was going to go to the Olympic trial, she was on the Olympic committee, and I met finally the executive producer and the writer for the first time. And then they, I'm going like this, telling their stories. They saw Janet and our passion and enthusiasm, and they actually rewrote the script, and then that's the one that Disney bought. And then once the movie started, I worked with Mark for a few weeks. I trained with him. Ironically, for 2 weeks, we did all the football training, and all those football players were really live pro football players. And we were training at Janet's alma mater, her high school, Northeast High in Philly. And Mark and I trained one-on-one. We went out together all the time. He got to know our family. He was at our house. We had a big party one time. Mark was the head of the party. He came. And we just developed a really nice, great relationship that has still, we still had that bond, which is pretty good. But once the movie started, the director, Erickson Core, he just said, just stay the hell out of the way. He says, I don't want to see you in the background, because Judge Judy and Jamie, every shoot where we go, we always had these director's chairs at all the shoots. We always had 10, 15, 20 people with us. It was so cool. Can't even believe that they're making a movie about us, and it was great. And Janet and Elizabeth got along great. And we were there almost every minute of every day when they did the shooting. At some point we had to get away. It was pretty intense. But
they wanted us to.
I think
they said, go what?
Get out of here.
But Mark really loved our children. He adored them. He used to hang with them more than anybody. He was really great with the kids. Yeah, he had a scooter. He had a Vespa scooter that he would drive around the set with all the time. And we see Mark there, and Mark he was really proud of his new body. So he never had a shirt on when he was in between doing those scenes, the football scenes. And in the back there was Gabrielle and Vinny on the back of the scooter, just as proud as could be. Now they're 24 and 27, but they text Mark all the time, and Mark always follows him. And it's pretty cool. It's one of the most incredible relationships I've ever been a part of. And I'm just so proud of it, to say that you're part of the Disney family, that you're actually a Disney character, which is pretty cool.
And he did a remarkable job, and what a great actor. I want to go back just for a second with Janet. I knew a young man named Mark Lindsay who's passed away years ago, but he went to a high school I was at for 2 years, Stafford High School. He was a wrestler. And in midstream, he stopped wrestling and became a diver. Won an Olympic gold medal. To this day, that story you just told, one of the most remarkable I've ever heard, to go from gymnastics to diving and swimming. I mean, to do what you're doing, to stop in midstream and do something like that, and to have the ability to make an Olympic team and be that successful in one sport to another, you can't do that. I'm telling you, you've been around a long time. Doing what Mark did, doing what you did, that's remarkable. And what Vince has done is remarkable. Let me ask you this. You two, as a power couple, you go out, you speak to people. How much has that inner drive for both of you with the sports aspect and overcoming people saying you can't, has it led to your great success today in terms of the business world?
I think you just keep going. It's just part of your DNA. You don't know how to, you fail And we always say you fail forward. And I always feel you learn more by failing than you do by winning. Right. And achieving, because you have to reflect, you have to reevaluate who you are. Right. And how do you get to that level? And it's a matter of, like when they invent something, how they, do something and then they tweak it. And that's what it is with life too. Except you'll find a lot of athletes in particular never succeed again in life because they don't want to make that commitment again.
Wow.
If you think about it, out of all the athletes that there have been, Olympians, what happened to them? How many are really successful? And a lot of them, it's because they were coached and they need a coach to get to the next level. And they don't know how to do it on their own because for a long time, they've been told what to do and they follow and they're good followers, but that doesn't mean they're leaders. And, a lot of what we're seeing today are these athletes that are just regurgitating things that they're being told to regurgitate. They haven't really thought it through and they don't really know what they're saying. They're just saying, oh, well, this is what this one says, so I'm going to do it. If they say, hey, jump, you go, how high? And you go, okay, I'll try to get that high. And you give them a goal. But a lot of them don't want to take that risk again in life because it takes so much away. Okay. When you're really committed to something and focused, you're missing out on all this exterior, all the other babbles that you hear that get you distracted and you know how to focus. And then all of a sudden you say, oh, I'm missing out because I never did that. Like I never went to a happy hour till I was about 30 some years old because I worked. I was in a gym. So when everybody was done work at 5 o'clock, well, I was in the gym till 8:39. So it just, when you think you missed out on something. So, sometimes it's playing catch up.
She's caught up pretty good though, by the way.
Didn't you feel the same?
Self-motivation, Jamie. And you have two coaches. And we're of the belief in the ilk that, listen, if you don't practice what you teach or preach, forget about it. You're a fraud. You're a hypocrite. And we don't want to be that person. And when I was coaching track at high school, I never gave those kids a workout that I couldn't do because I was training for the decathlon at that time. So I was running those workouts with them. And I said, we're going to do 22 20s today with a 220 walk in between. They look at me and say, you're crazy. As I'm doing it, you're going to do it with me? And next thing you know, they started doing it. But I think that discipline we had back then, and I think it's the impact that coaches have made on our lives. No question about it. I was going through a tough time as a kid with my mother and her mental illness and her anxiety and her depression, and in a mental hospital. I saw her being taken out in a straitjacket. I was coming apart in my puberty years, and I had coaches and teachers that I could right now, if I saw them, I'd give them a hug and thank them for how much they saved me. And they gave me that reassurance and that self-esteem that I so desperately needed. It wasn't that my dad wasn't trying to do it, but he was this tough Italian guy. His father came over from Naples, spoke broken English. My dad never gets beyond the 8th grade. He's trying to work every day to get money because we got no insurance anymore. My mom and all the drugs and all this stuff. It was insane. It was insane. And I know what drives Janet. She doesn't want to be the way it was when she grew up and in a split family. And I don't want to go through that same thing. And I really believe that's one of the things that drives us and takes it to that next level. And aside from the fact that we were coaches and we understand and know how to try helpfully to get people to be as successful as they can or realize their full potential. It sounds like I'm giving one of my speeches. Probably is.
I love it.
I really believe that, and we believe it. But sometimes I need a motivation myself. And Janet I just told her today we were driving in the car. I said, I was thinking about today. I said, you really are a motivation to me because I look at her and all the stuff that she's doing with trying to help people and trying to pull these 3 houses together that we're doing right now. It's like, how do you do it? Mm-hmm. But hey, it's maybe it's fear of failure. Yeah, fear of failure. Probably. Probably it. But I'll tell you one thing though, nobody's going to tell me that I can't do something, because that's the absolute biggest motivator that anybody can give me. Is her mother the other day, as I was doing some work out there, she said, Vince, you shouldn't be doing that. You're too old. And I didn't want to say it because I didn't want to upset Mom. And I'm thinking, you watch. You just watch.
Yep.
You're going to go walk afterward, but you know.
I got it done.
Yeah, but you know what else I think is important is he's very large in life, his personality. And I don't mind that. And I don't mind him being the center of attention. I can be in the back, and I like to be behind the scenes. I know what it's like to be in front, but I really get a lot of pleasure out of watching people succeed and reach their potential. And how he is, because when he goes into a room and he's doing his thing, he's larger than life. And a lot of people, I think, would be intimidated by it, but I don't worry about it. I mean, I have my own life. I have my own things that I appreciate, and I don't mind being behind him. Whereas a lot of people, they say, I got to be even. I got to be this. I don't need that.
Well, I see us together working as a team. So on the last slide that I do in my presentation, it's us together as coaches talking about our beliefs and pulling things together. So that's the way I look at it.
The Sports Love Life Show is brought to you by Mission Belts. No holes, always fits. Isn't it time you join the mission? Welcome back to Sports Love Life with your host, Jamie King and Dr. Judy Ho.
I think it's so important to think about this concept of, teamwork and how you guys lift each other up. And I love what you said to Janet about, you don't mind when Vince is, the person in front and he's getting the accolades, and, really it's probably about a partnership. And I think that sometimes when I see couples struggle with that, especially couples who are both used to being very competitive, very high achieving, like both of you are, sometimes they lose sight of that in their partnership. And it's really about having joy for the other person when they're having their moment, and really lifting up everybody around you in the same way, and being happy when other people are having a wonderful day and achieve something. I think that there's this real culture among the younger generation, this like fear of missing out. And well, if somebody got this, and when am I going to get it? It always kind of comes back to them in that way, in a really negative way, as opposed to being really motivated when you see somebody achieving amazing things and thinking, if they could do it, I could do it too, right? And it really is a matter of perspective. And I think that people sometimes can't switch it to that perspective, because it always feels like maybe they're behind somehow when they see a peer or somebody they love doing something that they're not doing yet. So I don't know, when you guys talk to people, and when you talk to maybe the younger generation, and maybe they're a little bit more easily discouraged when they look around them and they kind of have that fear of missing out. Again, this idea of, well, these individuals are moving so much faster than me, and how come I'm not there? What do you tell them? What kind of advice do you give them so that they can essentially have the same spirit that the two of you do, where it's like, oh, you tell me I can't do something? Well, that's going to make me want to do it more and learn from my mistakes and break all those obstacles and show you that I can do it. So what are some of the things that you say to help lift these individuals up?
I think, honestly, a lot of people don't know how to be focused, and they don't know what they really want. They think they know what they want, and they're all over the place, or, they want to be this, but they also want to be, how many people do you know that say, I could have been a great piano player, or I could have been this, but, I wanted to go to college and I really wanted to have that experience of being a college student. And I'm like, okay, you could do it both ways. But a lot of them give themselves mulligans, like, oh, I'll do it the next time. And they don't really want to pay the price. They want it easy. I mean, I'm dealing right now in real estate, I'm dealing with new agents. I've been doing it 38 years. I have these young kids that want to get their commission and do nothing. They go, oh, well, I brought the buyer in, and they don't want to do the legwork or all the extras to get it to the end. They just expect to get a commission. And you're like, wait a second, well, you got to do this. And I mean, I just had two different experiences, and I'm like, the first one I enabled him and I did it, and then he goes, oh, well, we didn't really look at it, and you did all this work. I go, I'm not doing it anymore. You do it. It's your responsibility. You now do it, because I'm not doing it. I did it once. Shame on me if I do it again. So you now have to do it, and you need to learn. And I said, I'm telling you, and I was very stern. I just said, you need to step up to the plate, and you need to take control, and you need to do what's supposed to be and not have somebody bail you out, because everybody's bailing everybody out and not making them go, hey, it's your turn. Step up. What are you going to do?
That's Janet's tough love. Now, my approach would, hey, would you, let's take a look at this and analyze the situation. And let's see how, if we can approach it this way, or we can approach it that way.
He's logical.
But,
I'm not.
well, that's the old school teacher in me too. But and I also did have a little psychology background. I was actually working in that when I started playing. But to get back to the question, I was going to call you Judge Judy. Dr. Judy.
They're both world famous now. They're both world famous.
But having young kids and growing up with them, and I'm definitely in the fourth quarter of life, and they've made me they've made me dope. I'm not woke, but I'm dope. But they think I'm cool, and the kids, I can relate to kids for some reason, and they trust me. And I know the movie has a lot to do with it, but aside from that, I don't know. There's whatever it is. There's that visceral connection that I have with kids. That I'm able to connect with them at all ages. And, I try to just feel them feel good about themselves. And more than anything, especially when I'm with kids, I try to have them initiate the conversation by asking a lot of questions about themselves and getting them talking about themselves, even with adults. And I think that really puts them at ease. And when then they'll give me some answers, and maybe one would think about this and think about that. But, I just say, it's amazing what you can do if you put your mind down to it and find something that you can do really well, and then become very good at it. Don't forget the fundamentals. And, Coach Ramil had the greatest saying, the greatest waste of mankind out there is waste of potential. The greatest waste is potential. And there's that greatness within you to come out. Let's find out what you like. And let's see what we can do, get a step-by-step thing. But I'm not as clinical as that, but, just working it out. But anyway, doctor, that's basically my approach. And it works out pretty good. The kids think I'm half-hip. And I just love it with Vinny's guys. I'm Mr. P, or they call me Pops. Yo, Pops, or Mr. P, as I don't care what you call me, just call me. So.
Well, Vince, I wanted to touch on, before we leave tonight's show, you had a cancer scare back in 2001. We've talked about this on my show, on my radio show. My brother Brett passed away from colon cancer. And anytime I speak, and I've talked to you about this privately, we always want to talk and raise awareness on this. Is colon cancer affected you? Talk about that. And Janet as well, how it affected you as a family. My brother wasn't caught early enough. He lost his life at 45. Just tragic beyond words. And I tell people that I love, and everybody I ever come in contact with, anytime I speak, if you get to this early and you get tested, it's the most treatable form of cancer practically there is, but you have to be proactive. So many people out there, well, I'm not going to do it. I don't like doctors. I'm not going to do this. And I'm like, guys, you got to understand, I saw the worst of the worst, and I couldn't be more firm when I tell them, please, I beg you, I love you, please go do this test. It could save your life. Vince and Janet, could you both speak to this and how it affected you?
Yeah, sure. I'll say right now that what's today, the 23rd, 24th. The 21st is the 20th anniversary of my surgery, where they did arthroscopic surgery, and they took 18 inches of my colon out. They basically resectioned the hose that they call the big intestine of the colon, and no chemo, no radiation, because we found it in time, and it's because of Janet. She wasn't just a motivating factor. She had the whip, get the test that nobody wants to take because of the prep. And it's because of that we did okay. But aside from it, as I surrounded myself with a great team of advocates, and not people that are going to feel sorry for me, just advocates. And through that process and be able to help me mentally and the process of our kids right there were 3 and 7, 3 and 6 when this is all going on. And I'm looking at them wondering, is this going to be the last time I'll ever see them? Our one doctor said, why don't you just go on vacation together? We went to Jamaica. I'm thinking, is this the last time I'm going? I just couldn't get out of my mind. But then when he got the pathology back and it says, you're fine, we're just going to do a resection and everything's good. So for one of the hospitals in the Philadelphia area, I became a spokesperson for several years. And I still do a lot of colorectal cancer awareness stuff and speak to patients. But that's right up there in the big one. And, it saved me. And it certainly changed my life. And
You'd be dead.
I would have been. So, thanks to Janet, she's the one that encouraged me to take that test. And, it saved my life. But I had a great team behind me, starting with the captain of my teams right here.
Absolutely. And that's, as I tell people all the time, please be proactive and take this test when you can. And as soon as you're eligible, take it, talk to your doctor. If there's a family history, please be proactive. It'll save your life. And Janet, thank you so much for obviously taking a proactive stance with Vince. And as you said, it saved his life. So we can't thank you enough for being with us tonight. Go ahead, Janet.
Yeah, I said, your kids, everybody, they say, once you've been tested and you have cancer, colon cancer, you have to have your children go 10 years before the age you were.
Right.
So at 45, then 35, everybody should be tested in the family.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And it's and not to be embarrassed about it. Everyone's like, oh, I don't want to talk about that.
Well, I think the old way with guys back in the day, 60s, 70s, everybody was kind of that tough guy. I don't want to go to the doctor. I'm going to be tough, rub dirt in it, and just go through the next day and don't go to the doctor and avoid. That was kind of the mentality. And I used to think that way coming up. Hey, I'm just going to avoid it. It'll take care of itself. You have to be proactive. You have to go see your doctor. You have to have open communication. And if you do that, it can, in your case, Vince, save your life. And before we let you go, we know you have so much going on, the both of you. Could you please tell us where folks can see you and some of the things you have going on so all of our listeners and viewers can learn more about you?
Well, Janet and I both get together and we do the Travis Manion Foundation. As we were talking about, Travis, a young man who was in the last tour, just about ready to come home and got taken out by a sniper in Fallujah. And his father, Tom, and I now are best of friends and the neighbors in Jupiter, Florida, as a result of that. I'm doing something right now. It's called Operation Invincible. Janet and I are both involved, and that's with the homeless vets in the Philadelphia area. And there's so much money out there that's being spread around. Let's get some of it and get it to these homeless vets and find them shelter and help and the guidance that they need. And maybe they need a Dr. Judy to help them out. On a nationwide program called the Super Bowl of Caring. It is for hunger. And so, keep an eye on that. And then finally, and one of my favorites, one of the reasons we're at Jupiter, I do a lot of work with police and law enforcement, a program called COPS, Consortium of Police Survivors, Blue Star Families, survivors, Blue Star families. And, Janet and I wrote this book. It's called Be Invincible, a playbook for reaching your full potential. And unfortunately, it was self-published. We can't get another copy. But this is when it's out. It's on Amazon. It's called The Last Laugh. And it's what you get when somebody tells you you can't do the impossible or the unthinkable or the undoable. And you get The Last Laugh. And this is really doing very well. And it's, you can get it in Amazon. So, we're busy. We're moving. We're working with our kids that are chasing their dreams. We have the Papale group in real estate down there in Florida, and the 2 kids and Janet.
Yeah, I'm a kid too.
The 3 kids, and the captain of the team. And, I'm now starting to get back out on a speaking tour. And if you need to get a hold of us, just go to vincepapale.com and it's easy to do. So it's really cool. And Jamie, we've been together. We've known each other for years. And I'm so proud of you and all that you're doing, what you represent. And Doctor, it was just so cool to talk to you. And I'm sure that you could give us some great advice as to we can move forward too. Because, it's never, we always say it's never too late to get into the game. You got to get off the sidelines and you got to get out there in the field. Otherwise, it ain't going to happen.
I love that parting sentiment. And it was just such an honor and pleasure to talk to both of you today, Vince and Janet. You guys are so inspiring to me personally, and I know so many people in the world. So please keep doing what you're doing, and I'll continue to follow you guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Folks, once again, the 15th anniversary for Invincible, the movie. If you haven't seen it, make it part of your viewing. It is unbelievable. You'll get uplifted from it. And I'll tell you, in these times, we need it more than ever. Vince and Janet, thank you again so much. It's always an honor to see you, and we'll have you back again. Thank you so much, and good luck with your move.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
You want to
We'll be
come
right back.
again?
We'll be right back with more Sports, Love, and Life after these messages.
The Sports Love Life Show is brought to you by Cremo and their fine line of skin creams, body washes, colognes, beard products, shave creams, and more. Cremo, astonishingly superior. It's time to hear from your hosts with their thoughts on today's episode. It's overtime on the Sports Love Life Show.
And welcome back, everybody. It's overtime with Dr. Judy. And Dr. Judy, I tell you what, just a remarkable couple, power couple, two competitive people, a great movie. Tell us what you learned in tonight's interview.
Well, I think, first of all, they're both just so humble and so kind with everything that they've achieved. I mean, they are literally elite athletes. They've been the best of the best all their lives. And yet I'm just struck by how humble they are and how kind they are. And not only to each other, but to everybody that they interact with. So I really enjoyed speaking to the both of them.
What in your daily life, I know you come across power couples, you come across celebrities, entertainers, and you talk about the drive that makes them successful and keeps them together. And in this case, they play off each other so well. The one thing you mentioned during the interview was the fact that you noticed how Janet didn't mind staying behind the scenes. And sometimes with power couples, a lot of times they go separate ways because they both want to be on top. Can you speak to that, how it seems like their dynamic works and how sometimes people that are trying sometimes to be too, aggressive against each other sometimes get lost in a relationship?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that obviously that drive, it can be so positive for so many people. They're high achievers, but at the same time, sometimes if that drive is turned on its head and it's directed at each other, then it can really cause problems in a partnership. And the two of them are not like that at all. And I think that really what makes them successful is that they're really happy for each other. They're truly overjoyed for each other when the other person is in the limelight and shining. And I think that is really one of the keys to their success as a couple. But, their success as people overall is that both of them spoke about this concept of resilience and the idea that really when people say things like, well, you can't do this, they just try harder. They're not afraid of failure. And I don't think that anybody should be, even though it's easier said than done, because when you fail and when you make mistakes, that's when you learn the most. And I know that Janet alluded to that during the interview. And so it's this idea of just going for it and not minding the naysayers and being okay with the fact that it might take you a few times before you get to that goal. That's okay. I think that sometimes people are so afraid of that disappointment, they don't even want to try. And I think that with them, the two of them are saying, just keep trying and you're going to get there.
Another takeaway was the fact that they said the COVID was not going to stop them or slow them down. They looked at it as a speed bump. They were going to keep going. And so many people I know can be weighed down by the COVID, and it affects people in different ways. I know you're seeing a lot of people in your practice that have different varying degrees of the depressionary aspects and things that happen along with the COVID trail. But the fact that they kind of said head on, we're not going to let it bother us. We're going to go ahead and just go through it as best we can. It seems like they have a really positive outlook on it and probably got them through this experience.
Absolutely. And I think that obviously COVID has been so devastating for so many people, and it can be really difficult when you're going through such a treacherous time to try to see the silver lining. But they talked about reinvention. They talked about this idea of finding a way to build a relationship, build more community, build more connection during their family and with other people that they interact with. And I thought that was very inspirational.
And lastly, before I let you go, Janet essentially saved his life with a colon cancer screening and saying, get there. And then he said, basically cracked the whip on him, said, go out there, be proactive, get checked. And it saved his life. He lost some of his, of course, colon, but he basically was able to make it through. And he said it didn't turn out to be as bad as it could have been, but he said she saved his life by basically making sure that he followed through. So that's another message from this great interview as well.
Absolutely. And I'm really sorry to hear about the struggles that your brother went through. And I think that unfortunately, there is that fear that sometimes holds people back from doing those invasive tests, and when you get such a scary diagnosis, it can feel so heavy.
Yes.
And it's really wonderful that Vince was able to recover, and with Janet basically pushing him into saying, you have to do this. And yeah, just, it's a very tough thing to deal with, something like a cancer diagnosis. And I'm glad to see that Vince was able to turn that around and again, be a voice of encouragement for others who might be going through something similar.
15-year anniversary of Invincible, the movie. Before we go, where can people see you, find you? Everybody's asking, how do we follow Dr. Judy? Give us all the info.
So you guys can follow me on social media at Dr. Judy Ho, or check out my work at drjudyho.com. And thank you as always, Jamie. Your guests have been amazing and they obviously adore you. And it's just been a real pleasure.
We're going to get more and more. And of course, we can't do it without you. You bring so much light, and everybody, I tell you what, all these entertainers and actors like, can we get with her after? I'd say, sure. I mean, Dr. Judy's available because they all love your advice. And we thank you so much for all you do for the show. And of course, we'll see you next week. You've been watching Sports Love and Life. Have a great week ahead. We'll see you next week. For Dr. Judy Ho, I'm Jamie King. Have a great night.